In Palestine, the Israeli occupation army released at least 77 detainees in the Gaza Strip who were transferred to the east of al-Bala. In Russia, President Vladimir Putin appointed economist Andrei Belousov as the new defense minister. And in Brazil, heavy rainfall continues to hit the southern regions, worsening their already critical situation in the area. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Palestine, the Israeli occupation army released at least 77 detainees in the Gaza Strip who were transferred to the east of Deir al-Bala. The civil defense in Gaza confirmed that the sanitary and humanitarian conditions of the prisoners released by Israel are critical after being subjected to various types of torture and psychological abuse. The Gaza Border and Crossing Authority denounced that the Palestinians kidnapped by Israel did not receive any food, medical or hygiene supplies and were also prevented from sleeping during their detention. The victims of the Israeli siege reported that before being prisoners of the Israeli regime, they were refugees in the Al-Aqsa hospital in the center of Gaza Strip. In this context, Israel increased the death toll of Palestinian women, dismissing the Mother's Day celebration for many nations. The United Nations confirms 37 children lost their moms every day in Gaza. This Monday, in the Shujaija neighborhood, Israeli forces slaughtered women and injured 10 other people. The United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian Refugees assured the Zionist regime murdered over 10,000 women in Gaza by the indiscriminate dropping of bombs provided by the United States. Palestinians continue to flee eastern Rafah as the United Nations Agency for Palestinian Refugees says nearly 360,000 people have now fled the city since Israel issued evacuation orders on May 6th.
I'm heading to Rafah's Al-Mawasi area because they dropped leaflets warning us not to stay home, and we need to go to safe places, to Rafah's Al-Mawasi. I pray to God to make things easier.
I'm waiting for any means of transportation to take me. There aren't any. And I have no money to pay them. How can I afford it?
In Lebanon, the Secretary General of the Hezbollah resistance movement, Hassan Nasrallah, assured that Israel is experiencing more strategic losses and will not achieve its objectives in the Palestinian city of Rafah. During the commemorations for the 8th anniversary of martyrdom of Commander Mustafa Badr al-Din, the Lebanese leader stressed that thanks to the strength and courage of women, children and fighters, the vision of Palestine changed to a great extent, presenting the true image of Israel and forcing the world to talk about a Palestinian state. Nasrallah pointed out that a sign of this is the pro-Palestinian demonstrations taking place in several countries around the world. Students began occupying a building at the Flemish University of Brussels, urging authorities to end cooperation with Israeli universities. The action follows other similar study centers in several countries and Belgian universities, including Ghent and the French-speaking University of Brussels. The students arrived with sleeping bags and supplies of water and food, determined to remain in the building until their appeal was heard by the rector of the Vrije Universiteit Brussels.
Because we see that, for example, in the United States, in the United Kingdom, everywhere else in Belgium, people, like students, are standing up and doing this. So there's very much like a wave going on of like an occupation that makes it very good that we do this together with all of the universities, and that all of the universities are actually doing like the same thing for the same cause, which is an academic boycott of Israel.
Meanwhile, students and staff at the University of Amsterdam went on strike on Monday over the university's attitude to pro-Palestinian demonstrations. Last Wednesday, during sometimes violent confrontations, police broke out Protesters were outraged by Israeli actions in the war against Hamas in the country to sever academic relations with Israel. Student protests have escalated across Europe following similar actions at US universities where several encampments have been set up.
So the first is that we want to condemn the police violence that was unleashed upon the students that organized their encampment here and an encampment downtown in another UvA location. And we want to call upon the university's board to, in the future, enter negotiations and discussions rather than immediately calling the police. And the second reason is that we want to again reiterate the demands that the students are posing to the university, so that the university is transparent about the ties that are there with Israeli academic institutions. Secondly, the students are calling upon the board to cut ties with Israeli academic institutions that are complicit in apartheid and in the occupation and genocide.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates and more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back. In Russia, President Vladimir Putin appointed economist Andrei Belousov as the new defense minister. According to presidential spokesman Dmitry Peskov, the decision is due to the need to implement innovations quickly on the battlefield. Belousov, a technocrat with expertise in economic affairs, assumes the position with no military experience, having successfully led Russia's Ministry of Economic Development. For his part, former Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu will continue to work in the sector from his new position in the Security Council. Ministerial changes must be approved by the Russian Parliament, which is expected to occur without major setbacks. On Monday, millions of Indians in 96 constituencies began voting in the second half of Phase 4 polling of Lok Sabha elections in the world's largest electoral process. Near 200,000 polling stations under the guardianship of millions of officials and security teams set off the phase smoothly for electing Lok Sabha members, that is, members of the parliaments of the lower house of parliament, in areas such as Andhra Pradesh, West Bengal and Odisha, to mention a few. Fourth phase is underway. The Indian Election Commission assured that at the crack of Monday dawn, conditions are ready to participate for the participation of 175 million voters out of 970 million eligible citizens. On Monday in Lithuania, local media highlighted that presidential candidate Gitanas Nausėda will face Ingrid Šimonytė in a second round of presidential elections. According to the official data of the first round published by the Central Election Commission, Gitanas Nausėda led with 45% of the votes. Meanwhile, Ingrid Šimonytė received 17% of the votes. In this sense, a runoff will be held on May 26th after Nausėda failed to reach the absolute majority of 50% plus 1. Precisely, he expressed his willingness to fight hard for victory, while Šimonytė claimed that her main goal was to reach the second round. In Spain, the European Commission questioned the sustainability of the public pension system, while some people are talking about possible budget cuts. Our correspondent Álvaro Fragua provides further details.
In its latest report, the European Commission foresees an adjustment for Spain of 0.8% of its annual GDP for pensions in the coming years. However, the Prime Minister, campaigning in Catalonia, will rather boast about his performance.
They attack us with slander, with their bullying, and they smear us, because we revalued pensions according to the CPI. And not only are we doing that, but we are also filling the pension fund so that by the time current youngsters retire, they may have decent pensions.
We wanted to talk to Damien, a spokesperson for the state coordinator for the defense of the public pension system, to know his opinion about the government's management.
We find it absolutely incredible that this progressive coalition government has taken, let's say, the employment pension plans, agreed through collective bargaining, the privatization of part of the public pension system, and the failure to conduct the public audit of Social Security, which had been decided in 2021 by Parliament, and we are still waiting for that audit to be led by the Accounts Court.
Although the audit will be key to protect the public system, Damien knows where the main threats to the future of pensions come from.
We are talking about a huge amount of money, almost 200 billion euros. Logically, big capital wants to get its hands on, to privatize that fund, to continue financing its wars and its neoliberal policies. We say that the system is sustainable, and that with other policies and a progressive tax reform, so that those who earn more, pay more, guaranteeing the future of society and public pensions.
Pensioners are mobilizing to demand transparency in the pension system, but they also denounce inequalities such as the income gap between men and women.
To end the pension gap, they have to end the wage gap, because pensions are lower for women because salaries are lower. The gender gap supplement should be increased, because right now there is a gender gap supplement that is not for all women. It should be for all retired women, and in a much larger amount than it is currently.
For several years now, every Monday they have been taken to the streets in different parts of the country to defend the pensions. From what they tell us, their persistence has brought on reprisals from management.
We have already been repressed with the gag law. On October 30, they asked us for IDs. We gave them to them, then they resorted to the police, and we have been charged with serious offenses that carries fines of 601 and 400 euros. Since we are demanding rights and raising awareness, they want to take us off the streets.
But they tell us that they won't stop. Pensioners were the economic shield of many families during the last two crises, and with their constant struggle, they remind us that the rights of tomorrow are those we fight for today.
Álvaro Fragua, teleSUR, Madrid.
We have a final short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Final short break. Don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. In Brazil, rainfall continues to hit southern regions as all rivers are increasing their flows, worsening the already critical situation in the area. In addition to the heavy rains, a wave of intense cold is expected in the next few days, which would further affect the flooded regions of Rio Grande do Sul. According to the meteorological report, the volume of rainfall is already close to 300 millimeters in the fields of Cima da Serra. These historic floods have already left more than 145 dead. According to the latest civil defense report, more than 619,000 people had to leave their homes, many of which have been completely destroyed.
I went to check. The area where my house is was broken. It went down. My brother-in-law's house next door had water halfway up the second floor. Now it's gone down a bit, and you can get to the second floor. But it's a mess. Lots of dead animals. Very, very sad. As it is, this will continue until next Friday, then another week of lowering, cleaning, and another week away from home. So we, the residents of the Santos Dumont neighborhood, Chacra dos Leos, will spend 30 days away from home.
We stay in Brazil, where authorities reported a tornado on Saturday in the rural area of the Gentil municipality north of the state Rio Grande do Sul. The weather event occurred as a result of heavy rains and isolated storms in the region, with wind speeds that reached up to 117 kilometers per hour. So far, authorities have not reported any fatalities or injuries, but significant damage to crops and fallen trees amidst the vegetation. The government of Granada activated a package of measures to rationalize the use of water due to the drought that has affected the country and left 17 reservoirs without the vital liquid. Among the measures ordered by the government after an emergency meeting, it was decided to limit actions such as watering gardens, pavements, sidewalks, vehicles, filling swimming pools, as well as any other activity that requires abundant water. According to the National Water and Sewerage Authority, these measures are intended to respond to the urgent challenges posed by the dry season. They also aim to ensure the sustainable use and conservation of the country's water resources by creating habits among the population to ensure compliance. In Turkey, Adana and Hatay regions in the south were affected by heavy flooding as a result of heavy rains in the recent days. In view of this situation, Hatay Governor Mustafa Mastali held a meeting of the Disaster Coordination Center of the Provincial Emergency Directorate. Work is already being carried out with multifaceted teams with a total of 315 vehicles and 666 emergency services personnel to eliminate the negative consequences of heavy rainfall. In Adana, where the rains continue intermittently, floods affected streets and roads, leaving vehicles stranded. Firefighters and municipal teams continue to work to drain the water from the roads. Indonesia's Ibu volcano erupted Monday, sweeping a dense 5,000-mile gray ash column into the sky for 5 minutes. Due to the toxic smoke generated by the eruption, the Indonesian authorities raised an alert, warning and prohibited all outdoor activities. Authorities have reportedly prepared evacuation tents, but no evacuation order has been issued. However, authorities have called the population to be cautious and take all necessary measures before the high probability of new and stronger volcanic activity. The Ibu is one of the most active volcanoes on the planet and has presented an increased activity during the last month. Now we go to the world of sports with tennis news, because the Chilean Alejandro Tavilo defeated the world number 1 Novak Djokovic in the third round of the Rome Master. In this sense, the Chilean tennis player number 32 in the ranking achieved the best victory of his career after defeating the Serbian winner of 24 Grand Slams, Novak Djokovic. Precisely was the first time that Tavilo faced the best overall player in the ranking, and he materialized the victory to become the second Chilean to achieve it after 17 years, when Fernando González defeated a number 1 in 3 occasions. This performance ratifies Alejandro Tavilo's career, who for the first time enters among the top 30. Now we turn to Major League Baseball, where Venezuelan pitcher Ranger Suarez, who plays for the Philadelphia Phillies, achieved a 108-year-old milestone. With the Philadelphia Phillies win over the Miami Marlins on Friday, the 28-year-old left-handed became the first Phillies started with a 1.50 earned run average in his first 8 starts of the season, the lowest to start a season since 1916. When pitching legend Grover Cleveland Alexander began the season with a 1.30. Precisely, Suarez is the 4th Phillies started in the 21st century to average 1.99 earned runs per game. We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net, and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok as well. For Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.